This is a Granny Smith orchard on G222, planted at 3.5 by 1.2. That's between 2,300 and 2,400 trees per hectare, so it's higher density, it's a more dwarfing, more precocious rootstock than what we're used to. And the most striking difference of this orchard is probably that it's fully enclosed with net on the top and on the sides. What we're looking at here is the fifth leaf of this orchard. We planted very small trees, so it's probably a good idea if you're a grower to look at these trees with more or less a fourth leaf cap on when you look at what you're seeing here. But yeah, this year, as with many other orchards, we struggled quite a bit with delayed foliation, and as you can see in the leaders, there's even flowers that only opened up in the last 2 weeks, so that's been a bit of a struggle this year. But that being said, we're looking at a very fair crop. We're expecting somewhere between 50 and 60 tons to the hectare. So we're looking forward to what we can continue learning in this let's call it a demo and a learning orchard. This is Granny Smith. So the objective of this orchard was to see whether we can effectively farm Granny Smith in the EGVV and alleviate sunburn. If you look at normal Granny Smith orchards in the EGVV, we're looking at a cull factor mostly due to sunburn of somewhere around 35 to 40%, and that's only on farm, not even looking at packouts. The most effective way to alleviate sunburn in Granny Smith is with shade netting. Now, shade nets come with a lot of other challenges if you're on normal, more vigorous rootstocks. And the objectives of this orchard was to assess whether new generation, more precocious rootstocks, in combination with a variety like Granny Smith, can provide a workable solution under shade nets for a fruit grower in this area.
Graeme, what have we learned to date in this orchard?
The most important things that we've learned thus far is that, like most other things in fruit farming, there is no such thing as a silver bullet, no such thing as a fix-it-all. In the young years, we're still seeing levels of sunburn in these Granny Smith orchards, partly due to the openness of the tree, and partly just due to the very strict tolerance for sunburn on Granny Smith. We've also learned that G222 as a rootstock is a viable option for Granny Smith under nets. We can see that the vigor is more or less in control. We see a very decent crop here, so that ties in with what we're seeing from the rootstock trials that the industry is conducting. We've learned that with more dwarfing rootstocks, you have to be very diligent about supporting the tree, not only for carrying the crop, but also for protecting the graft unit against snapping off. Farming is a long-term game. So we're only in the fifth leaf now, and as I said, you really have to look at this with a fourth leaf cap. So it would be very irresponsible of me to try and draw conclusions or make serious recommendations at this stage based on what we're seeing here. If you want to consider Granny Smith as a variety on your farm, you have to consider shade nets. I'm not saying you have to consider white shade nets, I'm not saying you have to enclose the whole orchard. But shade nets is definitely part of the future for Granny Smith, and if you're going to farm under shade nets, I honestly believe that a more precocious rootstock than the standards that the industry is used to will be part of that equation. And I think that's the take-home message at this stage. It would be irresponsible to make any more conclusions right now.